All right, let's jump right in, shall we? Today we're diving into something pretty fascinating. John Dee and his Monus Hieroglyphica.
Yeah, John Dee, quite a figure, isn't he? Much more than just an alchemist, although he was that too.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we're talking about a guy who was advising Queen Elizabeth I,
Mathematician, astronomer, astrologer.
a true Renaissance man.
Yeah.
And of course, he gave us this very enigmatic symbol, the Monus Hieroglyphica.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and you've given us some fascinating sources on it to try to unpack.
So in this deep dive, we're going to decode it.
That's right. It's a dense text packed with symbolism, but we're gonna distill the key ideas and uncover the connections Dee makes between all these different things: alchemy, astronomy, Kabbalah.
It's really a vision of a unified cosmos, right?
Absolutely, a unified cosmos, and it's all kind of bundled up in this one very potent symbol.
So before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's start with the basics.
Here.
What exactly is the Monus Hieroglyphica?
Well, think of it as it's like a cosmic blueprint, a microcosm reflecting the macrocosm, and he tries to cram every bit of meaning into this single image, and you can see just how intricate it is in the image we've included from the source material.
It is, yeah. It's a circle, a crescent moon, a cross, and then just all these other alchemical and astrological symbols.
Oh, absolutely, it's packed in there.
It's kind of overwhelming to look at it, to be honest.
It is.
But luckily, Dee doesn't just present this symbol and say, like, figure it out. He actually lays out his ideas in a very specific way, right?
He does, yeah, and a series of 24 theorems.
Some fourth yearling.
24 theorems, and they each build upon the previous one to sort of unveil these deeper meanings of the monad.
And this is where it gets interesting, because he's using this very structured, almost mathematical approach.
It is. It's like he's trying to present a logical argument for magic, which is just fascinating.
It is. It is. So what are some of the big ideas that he's getting across in these theorems?
Well, one of the central themes that runs through all of them is this concept of the unification of opposites.
Okay, so Dee believed that the monad, this symbol, embodied the reconciliation of things we typically see as separate.
So light and dark, male and female, that kind of thing.
Yeah, light and dark, male and female, even spirit and matter.
So is he saying that these opposing forces are actually all interconnected?
Exactly, and that understanding these unifications was key to spiritual enlightenment, but also to achieving practical mastery over the material world.
Okay, so how does he illustrate that in the theorems? Can you give us a specific example?
Sure, sure. In theorem, he talks about the line and the circle,
Okay.
and he says they represent basically all things. The line symbolizes sort of the active masculine principle, while the circle represents the receptive feminine principle.
Okay, following.
The distinct but inseparable.
Okay, so like two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Got it. So it's not that one force is like better than the other. It's that they need each other to exist.
Yeah.
Precisely. And he applies this logic to the sun and moon in Theorem the Fourth as well. Even though the moon sits above the sun in the monad, he's reminding us that it's reflecting the sun's light.
Oh, I see. So it's symbolizing a like a dependence on a higher power.
Yes. Yes, a dependence on a higher power. So even in a hierarchy, there's still this idea of interconnectedness.
Interesting. Okay, I'm starting to see the pattern here.
Good, good.
But I have to admit, this is all feeling a little abstract.
Right, right.
Did Dee ever give any examples of how these principles could be applied in a real way, in real life?
He did, and this is where we start to see another one of Dee's obsessions: numbers and geometry.
Okay.
He was really into Pythagorean ideas where specific numbers and shapes held deep significance.
Like the number 3 represents a triangle, and triangles are strong, that kind of thing.
Exactly. But Dee takes it, much, much further. He believed that by understanding the numerical and geometric relationships within the monad, you could unlock the secrets of the universe.
Okay.
For example, in Theorem the Eighth, he actually uses the Pythagorean formula, 1 + 2 + 3 + 4, 10, to connect the 4 elements to the number 10.
Wow. Okay.
So he's basically showing us how all these things are interconnected through these numbers and shapes.
So math is magic.
Well, he might not have said it like that, but he definitely saw a connection, a profound connection between the two. And it's not just theoretical. Dee actually provides instructions in the Monus Hieroglyphica on how to construct the monad.
Really?
And use it for practical purposes, particularly in the realm of alchemy.
Now we're talking. I was hoping we'd get to alchemy
Yeah.
because it wasn't just about, turning lead into gold, right?
Oh, no. It was also about transforming the self.
Right, like a spiritual transformation.
Really? Exactly. And Dee believed that by understanding the principles of the monad, you could achieve a similar kind of personal transmutation.
So he saw it as a tool for understanding the universe, but also for transforming ourselves.
Exactly.
For both. This is all incredibly fascinating, but I have to ask, did Dee ever explain what he hoped to achieve with this knowledge? What was he actually trying to do?
That's a good question. And we've talked about how ambitious Dee was, understand the universe, transform ourselves. But what did you actually want to do with all that?
Yeah, it's a question that's puzzled scholars for centuries, really.
Right.
Dee's writing can be, well, pretty cryptic, full
Yeah.
of symbols, and it's hard to pin down his exact intentions.
Right.
But I think we can get some clues if we look at the examples he gives in the later theorems, particularly.
So let's go back to the theorems then.
Oh,
What kind of things is he suggesting?
well, in Theorem XY, he talks about rearranging the monad
Yeah, okay.
to show its transformative potential.
He introduces this new ternary, figures B, D, and C.
Okay.
And it's really interesting because it shows how the monad isn't just this static symbol. It's like a dynamic tool
Oh, yeah.
for understanding and maybe even manipulating the forces of the universe.
Yeah, so like a cosmic control panel.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Uh,
And then in Theorem X of Psi, things get even more intriguing. D unveils what he calls the vessels of the sacred art.
Ooh, that sounds mysterious.
It does, doesn't it?
What are those?
Well, they're essentially descriptions of alchemical vessels
Oh, okay.
with hints at the materials and processes involved. But of course, it's all veiled in this cryptic language.
I have to say, it's a little frustrating that he's so vague.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like, I want to know, what Dee actually did with all this knowledge.
Right. Well, I think it's important to remember the time period he was living in.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Openly discussing alchemical practices could be, dangerous.
Right. Alchemy was often associated with heresy and witchcraft.
Exactly.
So he couldn't be too explicit.
Right. He had to be careful.
Okay. But he did give some concrete instructions, right? Like on how to construct the monad.
He did, yes. In Theorem X of 3, he gets very specific about the geometric proportions for constructing the monad.
Okay.
So it's almost like a blueprint for building this cosmic machine.
Okay. But a machine for what purpose? Like, what was Dee's end goal?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
That is.
Some scholars believe Dee was seeking spiritual enlightenment.
Okay.
Others think he was obsessed with gaining mastery over the material world.
Mm-hmm.
And some even believe he was trying to communicate with angels.
Communicate with angels.
Yes. Dee was very interested in angelology.
Wow.
He even claimed to have received messages from angels through a medium named Edward Kelly.
This is getting into some pretty wild territory.
It is.
I mean, did he actually achieve any of these goals?
That remains a mystery, I'm afraid. But
yeah.
the fact that we're still talking about his work, centuries later, that says something.
It does. It really does.
About the power of his ideas and the depth of his intellect.
He was a visionary for sure.
Was.
Maybe a little out there, but definitely a visionary.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, so before we move on, I think we need to talk about one more piece of the puzzle, and that's Dee's idea of the canon of transposition.
Ah, yes, the canon of transposition.
Yeah, this is where his mathematical mind really comes into play, right?
It does. It really does. He believed that by manipulating numbers in very specific ways, you could unlock hidden meanings and connections in the world around you.
So it's like a secret code embedded in reality.
That's a great way to put it. And what's really intriguing is that Dee claimed this method could be applied not just to understanding, the natural world, but also to governing people.
Wait, governing people? How does that work?
Well, he believed that the universe operated according to these mathematical principles, and that those same principles could be applied to create a more just and harmonious society.
So the canon of transposition was like a tool for understanding human relationships.
Exactly, and for making decisions that would benefit everyone.
So he's basically saying we can use math to create a utopia.
Well, he might not have used those exact words, but I think it speaks to his ambition.
Yeah.
He wasn't just trying to understand the universe, he was trying to improve it.
That's a noble goal for sure.
It is.
But it also raises some questions, if you think you have a formula for a perfect society, What happens when people disagree?
That's a crucial point. Dee's ideas about the canon of transposition definitely raise some ethical questions.
Yeah.
About the role of knowledge and power.
Yeah, these are big questions.
They are.
Okay, so we've covered a lot in this deep dive.
We have.
From the symbolism of the monad to Dee's vision of a unified cosmos. But as we wrap things up,
Sure.
I'd like to hear your final thoughts on Dee's legacy, the power of the Monas Hieroglyphica. What do you think is the most important takeaway for our listener?
That's a tough one. There's so much to unpack with Dee.
There is.
But if I had to pick one thing, I'd say it's his way of thinking.
What do you mean?
Well, he was a master of synthesis, right?
Yeah.
Drawing from all these different disciplines, alchemy, astronomy, even Kabbalah.
Yeah.
And he creates this system, this unique system of knowledge.
Yeah, you're right. He was always pushing the boundaries, blending, science and magic and religion.
Exactly. And I think that's something we can all learn from. Don't be afraid to challenge conventional thinking.
To think outside the box.
Yeah, think outside the box. Draw inspiration from unexpected places.
Like Dee did.
Exactly. I mean, look at the Monas Hieroglyphica, right?
Right.
It's this reminder that there's always more to learn.
There is.
More to discover. This search for knowledge, it's a journey.
It never ends.
It never ends. And even if we don't, completely grasp every little detail of Dee's system,
Yeah.
there's something really captivating about it, about this vision of a unified cosmos, where everything is connected.
It's a beautiful idea.
It is.
And I think that's what makes Dee's work so enduring. It speaks to this desire we have to understand the universe, our place in it.
And even though he was working, centuries ago, his ideas still resonate.
They do. We're still asking the same questions.
We are. The nature of reality, the power of knowledge, human transformation, and the Monas Hieroglyphica, it offers this really unique perspective on all of that.
It does. It really does. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's one thing you hope our listener takes away from this exploration of Dee's work?
I think the biggest thing is don't be afraid of complexity. The Monas Hieroglyphica, it's a challenging text.
It is.
But it's also rewarding. There are all these layers to unpack. And it's a journey that can lead to some really profound insights.
Yeah, it's easy to shy away from things that seem difficult.
It is.
But sometimes those are the things that have the most to teach us.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe by exploring Dee's ideas about the unification of opposites, you might find new ways to reconcile the seemingly contradictory parts of your own life.
Ooh, that's a really interesting thought.
Yeah, I mean, if Dee believed the monad was a blueprint for the universe, could it also be a blueprint for ourselves?
What opposites in your own life, could benefit from reconciliation, from transformation?
Yeah, that's something for our listeners to think about.
It is, and it's amazing that, Dee's work is still sparking these kinds of questions.
It is. It really is.
Centuries later.
Well
said, well said. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder the mysteries of the Monas Hieroglyphica.
Yes.
And its potential for transformation. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
Absolutely.